Hi there, nature lovers. Bob Ellis here with another episode of Notes from the Field. And today we've come off of the Mogollon Highlands and dropped down some 3,000 feet to the desert, the Sonoran Desert. And we're in a special place in the Sonoran Desert, and that is the Hassayampa River Preserve and Vulture Mountains Recreation Area. Now, the Hassayampa River originates in the Mogollon Highlands, so we feel like we have a deep connection to this river. This river is very special. It's 100 miles long and one of the few undammed rivers in Arizona. For most of its length, this river runs underground. But when it reaches this location, it hits an enormous bulk of granite, and that forces all the water to the surface for about a 5 or 6 mile reach. So here's what we know. We know that when temperatures are high, moisture availability is high, and nutrients are available, you are going to have a tremendously productive biotic community. And that is the case here. And as you can see behind me, you can see a great reach of cottonwood trees and mesquite trees. And one of the special things about this location is a stand of palm trees. Now, these palm trees have been here for a while, not native. They've been planted here by whom? Who knows? A lot of speculation about that. But really, this is a bit of an oasis in the desert. There are roughly 300 bird species here within this 700-acre preserve. And so what brings us here is an opportunity to investigate interspecific interactions. And so that just simply means the interactions between species. And this place is especially good for that because there is so much life concentrated in one area. So why don't you come along and let's look at some of these interactions among species. So there's a lot of things that we want to show you out of here, most of them fantastic. One of the most fantastic things is this place is super special because of the cottonwood willow gallery forest that you see here. Not a lot of this stuff left. This is one of the most endangered habitats in North America. Roughly 10% remains. This 700 acres was protected by the Nature Conservancy about 3 decades ago or so. And this place has been everything from a trailer park to dude ranch. And so it's gone through several hands. The Nature Conservancy secured it and now entered into a cooperative agreement with Maricopa County Parks and Recreation so that there's a greater beneficial use by the public. As we've talked in previous episodes, the community, an ecological community, is formed by members who first of all can get in that front door. And that front door is those master abiotic factors, temperature and moisture. After those basic requirements are met, the members of the community that remain are going to be ones that have some sort of interactions with other members of the community. And that's what we're here for today, is to kind of put into a big perspective this idea of interspecific interactions, or the interactions between species. Now, an understanding of these interactions is a pretty big deal for naturalists, and here's why. As naturalists, we're pretty much pattern-seeking organisms. We are always looking into the landscape, trying to suss out relationships or why a pattern exists. And so I think that having an understanding of 5 basic species interactions is going to inform your natural history practice in a very positive way. So frequently you'll hear people use the word symbiosis. And they'll use symbiosis to mean that 2 organisms have a mutually beneficial relationship. Well, in the world of biology, that's not the exact correct use of that word symbiosis. Symbiosis really just simply means 2 organisms living in close proximity to one another and interacting. And there's all kinds of ways that organisms can interact. And the 5 that we're focused on today, maybe it's helpful for us to think of them in terms of signs, math signs. So for example, let's think of mutualism. Mutualism would be one of those relationships where first organism, it's a positive relationship for it. The second organism, it's a positive relationship for it. So it's a plus-plus relationship. Now let's think of predation. Predation is just the opposite. Organism 1, that's the predator. Yeah, that's a positive relationship. For organism 2, the prey, that's a negative relationship. Now let's think about competition. That's a weird one. In competition, it's a negative relationship for A, organism A, and organism B, it's a negative relationship for it too, because neither one of the organisms gets what they want, so they both lose. Now, there's that weird one of commensalism. And in that relationship, organism 1, it's a good thing for it. Organism 2 is not a good thing, not a bad thing either. All right, finally, parasitism. In parasitism, we have the parasite, which that's a good relationship for it, and that means it's a plus. And then for the host, not so good. That's a minus relationship. So that parasitism is one of those plus-minus relationships. If the parasite kills the host, that's called parasitoidism. And that is definitely not good for the host. And if you think about it, in the long run, it might not be good for the parasite either. And the first 2 that we want to start with are maybe some of the most provocative ones, and that is mutualism and parasitism. The first one that I want to start with is right behind me, and that is this mistletoe that's hanging from that cottonwood tree. So this is a beautiful example of parasitism. That mistletoe, scientific name, is Phoradendron, that's the genus, and phora means thief, and dendron means tree. So it's thief in the tree, man. And the species is leucarpum, and leucarpa means white seed. And so I have in my hand here some of the seeds from the mistletoe, and indeed they are white. Interesting characteristic about these seeds is the viscid nature of them. And by viscid, I mean sticky. The seeds, once you take the outer layer off, will stick to almost anything. And that leads me to a mutualism. So we kind of have the combo platter going on here with the mistletoe, because these fruits are dinner for a couple of species of birds. And these birds basically are farming mistletoe. What happens, you wonder? Hey, this is what happens. The bird eats the fruit and then either wipes its bill or its cloaca or just drops droppings on a tree branch. And from that tree branch sprouts mistletoe. Mistletoe, as you probably already know, is a hemiparasite. And that means it's a partial parasite. What it takes from the tree are nutrients and water, and you can see by the fact that it's green, has green leaves, that it can photosynthesize. Can this parasite kill the tree? It sure can. If conditions get really rough, maybe an extended drought, the tree could die as a result of the load. And if you look in the cottonwoods behind me, you can see this whole cottonwood forest has been farmed either by western bluebirds or phainopeplas. And we are hoping to see a phainopepla out here today. We have our fingers crossed. It's such a striking bird. And the western bluebirds, of course, are beautiful too. Let's talk competition. Yeah, that relationship that is a negative for both organisms that are interacting. Competition has long been a part of ecology and natural history. As a matter of fact, I think it was Charles Darwin, one of the first people who recognized the importance of competition between species shaping biotic communities. Joseph Grinnell, another one, another naturalist who really kind of dug into this idea of competition, shaping biotic communities. And then finally a Russian biologist by the last name of Gauss kind of introduced research that supported the idea that no two true competitors can coexist. And so behind me, down the trail, you can see a great example of competition and the result of competition, which frequently, when it comes to plants, results in ozonation. You can see streamside that you have this enormous stand of cottonwood trees. They need to have their feet in the water, or otherwise they cannot exist. In the upland on the right-hand side of the trail, you see this beautiful mesquite bosque, the mesquite forest, Prosopis velutina, the velvet mesquite. They occupy the space where cottonwoods are not. Here's the story. Those mesquite trees would grow right up to the water's edge if those cottonwoods weren't already there. Those cottonwoods are excluding them through competition, and that competition is for sunlight. So the importance of competition really plays out in a lot of ways. One way is this thing of zonation, where you can see big trees and then smaller trees. Another way it can play out is through this idea of niche and niche partitioning. So in the world of ecology, there's this notion of niche, and a niche is everything that an organism needs to survive and reproduce. So that includes its location, its job, and all the physical parameters that surround its survival and reproduction. So in the world of, in the wild world, there's two kinds of niches. There's the fundamental niche, and that means the places that an organism could exist. Kind of, you think of it this way, what you want. And then there's the realized niche, and that is, think of it this way, is what you get. So you can want a lot, but that doesn't mean you always get what you get. So in the scene behind me, the fundamental niche for mesquite trees would be everything behind me. The realized niche, due to competition, is on the right side of the trail. For the cottonwoods, the fundamental and realized niche is that stream side, because they need to have their roots in the water. So people ask me, Bob, what the heck is this thing, commensalism? I mean, I really don't understand how there can be a positive effect for one organism and there being no effect for the other organism, neither deleterious or positive. Well, here's a great example. If you look up at this cottonwood tree, you'll notice a cavity. Now, that cavity is used by some other organism as a place where it might nest. For example, a bird could build a nest in there. That cavity, whatever created that cavity, whether it was just a natural loss of a limb, or another animal came and created the cavity, perhaps a woodpecker, the subsequent animal to come along to use that cavity as a nest or for whatever purpose, then that organism benefits. And there's not a positive or negative effect for the tree. Well, dadgummit, Bob, I still don't think I get this commensalism. Is there another example rather than a hole in a tree? You bet there is. Here's a really good one. If you look in this tree behind me, you'll see an oriole's nest. That pendulous nest swinging in the wind. What a wonderful place to live. And tremendous benefit, whoa, look at that flicker. Tremendous benefit to the oriole. However, there's no deleterious or bad effect for the cottonwood tree. So That's an example of a commensalism. Finally, predation. Now, predation is that situation where one organism benefits to the absolute detriment of the other organism. As a matter of fact, it takes its life. And so, whenever we think of predators, we think of tigers and think of lions and all those big, charismatic megafauna that chomp on other creatures. But down here in the stream, the same story is happening. And we happen to find one of the top predators in this stream. Look at this thing. It's a very, very young giant water bug or toe biter. Now these things are extreme predators. They have been known to capture small fish and even small frogs, tadpoles. And what they do is they grab them with those front legs and then suck the life out of the prey. So that whole predator-prey thing is a fascinating world, and we will be able to dig into that in subsequent episodes. So we're going to put this little fellow back. See you later. Hey, thank you, nature lovers, for coming along today on our little adventure here at the Hassayampa Nature Preserve. And I hope that today is helpful to you in your natural history practice. Having this big framework, 5 interspecific relationships, might kind of allow you to dig a little bit deeper into the natural history of your area. I also want to thank James Steady Hands Holder. He's the videographer behind this work and also has a keen eye. He can spot those things like that young water bug and an oriole's nest. So it's great having him along to help out with these videos. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That helps us out here at the Natural History Institute to bring more of this content. The other thing you can do is to swing by our website, naturalhistoryinstitute.org, and pry around in there, because I think you're going to find some things you like there. And you'll also find there a donate button, and if you hit that donate button, you're going to be able to help us bring to you more of these notes from the field. See you next time.